The Federal and Velevin Hypermarket jointly present the Thoothukudi Marathon 2024 to raise awareness on drug abuse. The event is co-presented by Edison Cardio Care Center, Tiruchendur, powered by L. Anand Jewelry and St. Mother Teresa Engineering College, Thoothukudi.
Hello and a warm welcome to Federal special program Capital Beat. Relationship between Jagdeep Dhanker, who's the Vice President, and the opposition almost reached a breaking point yesterday on the last day of the budget session when the parliament closed sine die. Now, all this erupted because of the unsavory remarks made by BJP leader Ghanshyam Tiwari against Mallikarjun Kharge. And all of this eventually spiraled into an attack on Vice President's tone and tenor while addressing the members of the House. Now, say, for example, Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar told Mallikarjun Kharge that he's trying to destabilize the nation. He's trying to create chaos in the House. Then similarly, if you talk about Jaya Bachchan, he took Jaya's name as Jaya Amitabh Bachchan. And time and again, she has said that I can be just addressed as Jaya Bachchan. But Jagdeep Dhankhar, for reasons best known to him, but he has always been addressing Jaya Bachchan as Jaya Amitabh Bachchan. So that was one bit. And then when yesterday Mallikarjun Kharge's mic was shut off, he was not allowed to speak, then the things really spiraled out of hand. And Jaya Bachchan, there was a big tiff between Jagdeep Dhankhar and Jaya Bachchan. Jagdeep Dhankhar went to the extent of saying that she may be a celebrity, but she has to maintain the decorum. And he also said that I don't care if you're a celebrity. So eventually, when Jaya Bachchan went out of the house, she addressed the reporters, and along with her was also present Sonia Gandhi and many other lady MPs. And then she said that the chair owes an apology and he has to care. And after which the reports started doing the round that the opposition is contemplating on an impeachment motion against Jagdeep Dhankhar. And also similarly, there have been a lot of questions on the conduct of the speaker, Om Birla, as well, when you talk about Lok Sabha. So the larger question which we are raising, and specifically we'll also talk about as to what really happened yesterday between Jagdeep Dhankhar and the opposition, why things went out of hand. But the larger question is that have the presiding officers diminished the sanctity of the chair by becoming the legal and the political players? Joining me now is former Secretary General of Lok Sabha, PDT Achari. So thank you so much for joining. We have political analyst and author Sanjay Jha with us. Thank you, Sanjay, so much for joining. And we have senior editor of TheFederal, Puneet Nicholas Yadav. Thank you so much, Puneet, for joining. And let me begin with Puneet, because Puneet was present in the House. What really went wrong, and why was Jaya Bachchan really forced to give that kind of a statement, which she made before the reporters? And then afterwards, this whole narrative of the impeachment motion against Jagdeep Dhankhar.
Neelu, thank you. One small technical thing here, of course, you don't impeach the vice president. The Constitution doesn't call it impeachment. You can move a resolution seeking his removal, right? Now, of course, over the last few days of this session, we've seen a lot of sparring between the vice president, the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, and the opposition. It's not something that was out of the ordinary, because we've been seeing that for the last 2 years, ever since he took that office. But what we saw over the last 2 sittings of the Rajya Sabha was, in a sense, of much greater scenes of much greater acrimony than what we'd seen earlier. Mr. Dhankar is not known to be, and he's never, kind of projected himself to be a chairman who has a lot of regard for the manner in which one expects the Rajya Sabha chairman to behave. He very often, you'll find him use the language that we expect from BJP spokespersons. And that is what the opposition had been, calling out for the last few days. Over the last 2, or in fact, the last 3 sittings of the Rajya Sabha, we had one incident starting with, of course, Jaya Bachchan, when she took offense to being addressed as Jaya Amitabh Bachchan. That, of course, was not something that originated from the Rajya Sabha chairman, but came from the deputy chairman, because he was the one who first read out her name as Jaya Amitabh Bachchan, and then she objected. The next day, the chairman gave a clarification saying that the deputy chairman is a stickler for rules. As per rules, we can only read out names that are mentioned in the election certificate. Now, while he may be right in saying so, I don't know. Mr. Achari would be a better commentator on that. But this is not something we've seen previously in the Rajya Sabha. And Ms. Jaya Bachchan is not someone who's become a Rajya Sabha MP, 3 days ago. This is her 5th term in the House. I don't recall her being addressed as Jaya Amitabh Bachchan by the chair by Venkaiah Naidu or by Dr. Hamid Ansari or any of the previous chairmen. But that sort of got resolved rather quickly, although Mr. Dhankar kept it up and all that. Then you saw the day before yesterday things escalating further when Mr. Derek O'Brien of the Trinamool Congress and other members of the opposition kept demanding a discussion on the disqualification of Vinesh Phogat, and they were not happy with the statement made by the Union Sports Minister. They wanted clarifications. That was not allowed. And when Mr. Derek O'Brien, who's of course a very voluble MP, started objecting, while the chairman rejected his demands, and he kept saying that he needs to be heard, the opposition needs to be heard. You had the chair practically shout him down, saying, "How dare you?" That's not the kind of language one expects from the chair in the House. And then yesterday's events, where all it was, the trigger was basically Mr. Jairam Ramesh of the Congress getting up and asking the chairman that a few days earlier there were some objectionable remarks that were made against the LOP, who's also the Congress president, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, by the BJP's Ghanshyam Tiwari. And at that point in time, objections were raised by the opposition. There were written objections sent to the chairman regarding that, seeking an apology from the BJP MP and to expunge those remarks. The chairman said that he will give his ruling. The House, everybody had, although the schedule was till the 12th, till Monday, everyone was expecting that the House will adjourn yesterday. And so there was a demand from, or a request, in fact, from Mr. Jairam Ramesh that you were supposed to give a ruling. You have not yet given a ruling. Can we please have your ruling on the matter? And Mr. Dhankar said that, well, I don't need to give a ruling because I called Mr. Kharge and Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari to my chamber. They spoke about it and they resolved it. And what Mr. Tiwari was trying to say was misunderstood because he spoke in Sanskrit. To that, the Congress MPs and then the wider opposition said that this is not the case. The LOP is not convinced. And if the objectionable statements have been made on the floor of the House, then the resolution cannot be in chambers. We would expect the resolution also to be on the floor of the House. If an apology has been tendered in chambers on a statement made on the floor of the House, then the apology should also be made on the floor of the House. That is what the opposition was demanding. While this was going on, Ms. Jaya Bachchan also wanted to, associate herself with what the other members of the opposition had said. And Mr. Dhankar called her name out. And again, of course, as Jaya Amitabh Bachchan, she took it in her stride. In fact, she got up and she started her submission by saying, "Main Jaya Amitabh Bachchan," And then she said that, we've seen a lot of things happening in this House, and she was rather polite. That's again something. Ms. Jaya Bachchan is also known to lose her cool in the House, but she was very polite the other day. She said that, "I'm very sorry to say this. to the chairman that, but it's unfortunate. I have to say that we find your tone to be
Not acceptable.
objectionable. That is what, not acceptable. That is what she said. And Mr. Dhankar blew up, and then he went on about you cannot teach me decorum. I don't need schooling from you. You may be a celebrity. I don't care, etc., and all of that. And that's when the opposition, of course, walked out. So this had been building up, and I, with great responsibility, I can say this, that fine, one may blame the opposition for causing disruptions of the House. The opposition, one may even find fault with their demands or, asking for clarification and all that, which of course is within their rights, by the way. But a lot of the blame Mr. Dhankar will have to take on himself for the way he has conducted the proceedings of the House. I do not recall any other vice president, any other chairman of the Rajya Sabha conducting the proceedings of the House so visibly in a partisan manner as the current chairman has.
Absolutely. I'll come to Mr. PDT Achari. That Mr. Achari, now that the opposition members are thinking of bringing a no confidence motion or an impeachment motion, or of course he can't be impeached as what the rules say. But how does it happen now that it will come in the winter session? They need a 14-day notice for that. Will that be possible? And how does it end? What is the end goal then?
See, Article 67B of the Constitution says three things. One, the Vice President can be removed from his office. So he is removable. The second thing is a procedural provision. And it lays down a procedure, very simple procedure. That is, you move a resolution in the Rajya Sabha, and that resolution has to be passed with a majority of all the then members of the House. And then the third one is that 14 days notice is required before the resolution is taken up for discussion. These are three things which are mentioned in Article 67. Now, this article gives the right to the members to remove the Vice President from his office. That is the most substantive thing. This is a right which is given by the Constitution to the members of the Rajya Sabha to remove the Vice President from his office. In fact, it does not lay down or it does not mention any grounds or reasons for doing that. And then, of course, after it is passed by the Rajya Sabha, it has to go to the Lok Sabha. There also a simple majority will do. And when the resolution is passed by both the houses, the effect is that the Vice President is removed from his office. Now, the question is, when do you move this resolution? Because 14 days notice period is required. That is a question which is bothering everyone. And when exactly can you move the motion? Or give notice of the motion, to be exact. When the houses are summoned, there is a gap of about 15 days between the issue of summons and the meeting of the House. Now, what I feel is that they can give notice of a resolution on the day the House is summoned, so there will be a gap of 15 days. And then, after 14 days, it can be taken up any time. Now, the point is, the Article 67 uses the word, the resolution shall be given notice of. The minimum period is 14 days, the minimum. So it need not be taken up on the 15th day or 16th day or something. But it has to be taken up because it is a constitutional right which the members of the House are exercising. they cannot be denied that right. So they can do that. And if they move,
It's
give notice of
mandatory
this.
to accept the motion. It's mandatory to
Yes,
accept the motion, but then eventually
yes,
later on it
certainly,
can be rejected also.
certainly.
Yeah.
But the Rajya Sabha rules of procedure does not contain any rule. I have not found any rule which deals with the procedural aspects, as we find in the Lok Sabha rules about the speaker's removal. Um, so this is the procedure which has been laid down by Article 67. And then during the session, the government will have to find time for discussing and passing this resolution. Passing the resolution means there has to be a discussion on the resolution. So you cannot escape that. And there is no option before the chairman or anyone to postpone it indefinitely. That is also there. The prescription of minimum, laying down of minimum period doesn't mean that you can take any, a longer period and then perhaps put it in the agenda on the last day and so on. That is, and then give just allot some 2 hours or 1 hour or something, and then dispose it off quickly. All that kind of thing is possible. But the issue that people are trying to grapple with is the period of notice. When can the resolution be given notice of? So when I look at this article, there is no precedent. Actually, no vice president has ever been removed from office in this manner. That, of course, shows the change that has happened in the times and the political atmosphere and so on. I do not want to make any comment. As a former Secretary General, I will not comment on the other things. But here I was just mentioning about the procedure that is to be followed. As I said, it's a substantive right. The members have the right to remove the Vice President from his office, and then they have to comply with this procedure. Everyone has to comply with the procedure that has been laid down in Article 67B.
So you've listed out the rule exactly that according to Article 67. But the most important thing you said was there is no precedent like this. Now, Sanjay, coming to you, if there is no precedent, how do the things from here move on? Is it not like a situation which is very ignominious for Jagdeep Dhankhar, for the government as well? And what does the ruling side do? And of course, the larger questions on the way the parliament will be conducted, whether it is Lok Sabha, whether it is Rajya Sabha, and specifically since we are talking about Jagdeep Dhankhar, then more so we are talking about Rajya Sabha. So how does the business get transacted?
Good evening, Neelu. I agree with you that there has not been a precedent before, but there is always a first time. It's as simple as that. And I think, as both Mr. Chari and Puneet have very exhaustively already expressed both the legalities as well as the constitutional safeguards or processes, the fundamental point that we need to answer is why are we confronted in this very unpleasant, bitter, acrimonious contest between the treasury benches and the opposition? Let's be honest, there is a clear trust deficit between the government and the government appointed people holding constitutional positions. I think the latter is where the disappointment really comes in. There are certain posts that are meant to be bipartisan once you occupy the chair. But as we have found in the case of governors, the recent example is the governor of West Bengal, by the way, in an extremely uh, seedy, sleazy allegations made against him. And you have the constitutional head sitting in Delhi doing nothing about it, right? Now the Supreme Court is intervening in the matter. Mr. Mr. Dhankar and Mr. Birla are seen by many people who willfully take up a very belligerent pro BJP line, as Puneet rightly pointed out. This is partisan trench fare. There is literally a polarized situation, and the opposition is completely justified in believing that there are certain positions that need to be impartial, at least pretend to be dispassionate by being, in a cosmetic sense, being fair, although everyone knows ideologically where they are. But I think this is where you're seeing Indian democracy looking so frail, fragile, and totally fragile. I'll give you the simple example on the question of what was said about Mr. Kharge. I mean, that's a political statement. Somebody's trying to destabilize India. Firstly, that's ridiculous, is absurd, is atrocious, laughable. And that kind of a statement, I can understand, a certain BJP chief spokesperson making it in a press conference or on a TV channel, but it's being made on the floor of the House. You find a statement of, I believe, concerning the dignity of women being made where Jaya Bachchan was concerned. And I do take it, I would like to kind of be forthright here, Nilu. It's more an ideological mindset. To talk to a woman who's been an experienced parliamentarian, a very well respected actor, by the way, and to say that, I don't really care who you are, it's the arrogance of power. So, patriarchy, misogyny, patronizing attitude, these are hallmarks of a deeper ideological mindset which has manifested itself. So the opposition, in conclusion, from my side, is completely justified in believing that the chair or the house is never going to be fair to them. They are not able to speak. The mics are turned off. Extremely outrageous and obtuse allegations are made against the leader of the opposition. Jairam's case is so valid. Why aren't you really taking a call on the statement made by Mr. Tiwari? There is no resolution coming forward. So I go back and I would like to conclude by making a political point. I think we should bite the bullet here on this. At least I will, for sure. That if the political culture is vitiated, and we find today both the opposition and treasury benches literally like football coaches on a football field, one of them getting a red flag. The answer to that is that you have leaders who talk in their campaign about Didi oh Didi. We have seen how demeaning and disrespectful the highest office in the land has been during election campaigns. So why are we so surprised at the end of the day when such an unprecedented development happens? I completely agree with both Mr. Chari and Puneet. It hasn't happened before. But when this chair is going to face, I don't know whether it's speculative how true it is at the moment, but if it is, there is going to be a no confidence motion against the chair. It's symbolic of a rather significant debilitation of political values in our country.
Right. But Puneet, coming to you, as what the reports say that, and the sources are saying that, more than like 85 signatures have already been collected. So what are your sources saying? How is it really moving ahead? Are they very serious on bringing this kind of a no confidence motion against, or impeachment motion, whatever you call it, against Jagdeep Dhankhar? Or can there be a middle path where they talk it out with JP Nadda? Because I'm told that apparently the opposition leaders went and informed JP Nadda that they're trying to bring in a motion like that. So will there be a middle path where they can talk it out, there can be a dialogue, and things can be straightened out? Or things will really, there's a possibility that things might just get worse from where it is?
Well, Nilu, I don't know, whether this will sort itself out by the time the next session is convened. So, as far as informing Mr. Nadda is concerned, I think it was in the fitness of things, because Mr. Nadda happens to be the leader of the House in the Rajya Sabha, that the opposition went and informed. But from what I am given to understand, this is not about actually removing the vice president. The opposition is fully aware that they do not have the numbers on their side. Okay, even in the Rajya Sabha, the provision for the removal of the vice president, unlike in the case of a president's impeachment, for the vice president, you do not need a 2/3 majority. It's just a simple majority. But the opposition knows that it does not even as of now have that simple majority. This discussion as of now for the removal, or for moving a resolution for the removal, has happened within the India bloc, which is 87 members. The BJP is at 106. Okay. So now there are a couple of possibilities here. I have been told that there are discussions underway with Mr. Naveen Patnaik as well as Mr. Jagan Reddy. Between the two of them, between their parties, there are 19 MPs, 11 from Mr. Jagan Reddy's party, 8 from Mr. Patnaik's party, and we know how these two parties have bailed out the government in the past and why they're singing a different tune today after the Lok Sabha results and after the BJP, stormed to power in Orissa, found a new ally in Andhra. And so, there are those changes in the support that these two parties would have given to the BJP in the past and what they wish to offer now. But if they do get on board with the opposition's plan, see, the opposition may still not be able to carry such a resolution, in the sense that to have it passed, they may still not shore up enough numbers for a simple majority. But what I'm told is the intention is that this is the strongest possible manner in which their protest against the chairman and the way he conducts the proceedings of the House can be registered. It's the strongest possible way. What are the other options? You stage a walkout, you shout, scream in the House, disrupt proceedings. There are only so many things that the opposition can do, to register its protest. By moving a motion for, seeking the removal of the vice president, it's the strongest possible tool that they have.
Absolutely.
And so it may not lead to Mr. Dhankar's removal, but it will at least register that, look, this kind of conduct of proceedings is not acceptable to us. And I do also, if you would allow me, I do have a question for Mr. Achari. Since this is a rather, unprecedented situation, but we do have a different precedent, although the constitutional provisions there are again different. A year ago, the opposition had moved a resolution seeking the removal of the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha. They had submitted notices within time. All of that procedure was completed. But then the chairman rejected the notices, saying they are not in the proper format. And there was no discussion that happened on those. It wasn't even put to vote. It wasn't even, brought in for a discussion. So what I would want to ask Mr. Achari is, in his understanding of the rules of business and the provisions of the Constitution, who acts on accepting this notice? Because we've seen how Mr. Dhankar, practically any notice moved by the opposition, whether it is for a Rule 267 discussion or even at times for a calling attention motion, Mr. Dhankar is known for rejecting any notice moved by the opposition on grounds such as it is not in the right format, there is no consensus on this, etc., etc. In fact, the session gone by had a different precedent of sorts, where you had the opposition asking for a 267 discussion on various issues, Wayanad, then the continued silence of the Prime Minister on Manipur, etc., etc. All of those notices were rejected by the chairman. But for the first time, I saw, or at least for the first time in a very long time, that a notice of Rule 267 moved by the Treasury benches. Although that was rejected, the chairman saw it fit to convert that into a calling attention discussion and allowed a discussion to take place because it was it was on an issue that would have reflected poorly on the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi. The deaths of the unfortunate deaths of the 3 UPSC aspirants who died by drowning. So,
Right.
Mr. Achari, if you could explain, say these notices are indeed moved. How do you move? How do you ensure that, they're not rejected?
Well, Article 67 will give you the answer. It is not like any other motion or resolution that is moved in the House under one rule or the other. This is under Article 67 of the Constitution. So it's a constitutional provision under which member or members move a resolution, and the chair has no other option but to admit it. That is it. Unlike other business of the House, after all, in a way, it is not a part of the regular business of the Rajya Sabha, because it is a constitutional provision. Therefore, it has to be treated differently. Now, you know that when there was an impeachment motion against that Justice Ramaswamy, in fact, that motion was moved in one house, and then after that, there was a dissolution and all that, and then it was taken up and there was a question. Because once the dissolution takes place, all the motions and resolutions, all the business lapses. After that, nothing survives. So you have to move all these things afresh. But the Supreme Court had said, no, since it is a constitutional motion, it survives. Similarly, since it is a constitutional resolution, then the chairman has no option but to admit it. There's no question of admitting or not admitting. The motion, the resolution has to be taken up for discussion. That is the point that is the point which becomes clear if you read Article 367B very carefully. No question of admitting or not admitting. It
Right.
has to be
Has
taken
to
up
be
for discussion and voting. That is,
Right.
yeah.
All right.
Any other?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Puneet, you have any other question, or I'll go for the concluding remarks now to Sanjay?
No, that will be all. Yeah.
All right. So, Sanjay, if it has to be taken up, but as what Puneet was saying, that numerically the motion won't sail through in Rajya Sabha and also, for that matter, in Lok Sabha when it goes. But doesn't it debilitate the authority of the chair? Even if Jagdeep Dhankhar continues to be the chairman of Rajya Sabha, will he not lose the moral authority? And how will he run the House? Supposing if the motion is moved, the motion is not able to sail through, and Jagdeep Dhankhar continues to be in Rajya Sabha, will he be able to exercise a moral authority over the opposition, which is so dominant, which is so powerful now?
Neelu, the very fact that we are having this program and discussing it goes to tell you that the moral authority is significantly dissipated already. This is being talked about since it happened yesterday. I think everyone who follows politics is aware that whatever transpired was extremely unhealthy in terms of a proper constitutional and democratic practice. Now, here is the truth. The truth is that you have seen over the last 10 years, and it's going to continue, it's not going to stop, the destruction of institutions. Now, I also feel that certain positions are meant to be constitutionally independent positions. They are meant to be impartial and neutral. There is a certain sacrosanct character to them that clearly is being violated in broad daylight. And that's exactly what you're witnessing. Now, going back to why is the opposition going to do it, if at all, go back to what happened when they moved a no confidence motion on Manipur. Why? Can you imagine that there is a state of India going through an absolutely horrific ethnic violence? I don't want to even remind viewers about the pictures that came out that triggered the entire serious investigation into what was going on there. And it still remains, by the way, in a state of simmering. You can see the exhibitions of anger still persist. And you had a government and a prime minister who chose to completely stonewall a debate. The opposition actually said that I am going to lose this debate. I'm not going to get the numbers in the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, but we will get national attention on a matter that deserves to be brought into focus, because the big media was ignoring that, and the government was obviously riding roughshod over any conversation on Manipur. So sometimes you win even when you lose. So the larger message of the opposition here is that we want to remind the people of India that we are not getting fair play in Parliament. And if you're not going to get it in the most consecrated space of Parliament, then I think this is the best way to remind the people that there is an authoritarian dispensation that has subsumed even constitutional positions, where individuals who head them are clearly have become handmaidens. That is the larger message that the opposition is sending. And I think both Mr. Puneet and Mr. Chari have actually already explained the provisions under which they're going to do it. Their bottom line is the results don't matter. They don't have the numbers. I completely agree. Even if they have the numbers, they're going to lose it in the Lok Sabha anyway. But the bigger message is that there is no level playing field at all.
So we'll have to end it there. Thank you so much, Mr. Achari, Sanjay, Puneet. It was wonderful having all of you on the program. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this discussion: subscribe to our channel, send us a feedback, and stay tuned to The Federal.
The Federal and Velevin Hypermarket jointly present the Thoothukudi Marathon 2024 to raise awareness on drug abuse. The event is co-presented by Edison Cardio Care Center, Tiruchendur, powered by L. Anand Jewelry and St. Mother Teresa Engineering College, Thoothukudi.